In 2014, the entire watch industry laughed at Apple. Traditional collectors called it a toy. Luxury brands ignored it. Watch enthusiasts said the hype would disappear within a year. Because to them, real watches had history, mechanical movements, Swiss craftsmanship. Hundreds of tiny moving parts, not a black screen made by a tech company. But then something happened that nobody expected. People stopped asking, "Is the Apple Watch a real watch?" and started asking, "Why am I still wearing anything else?" And whether collectors want to admit it or not, Apple changed watches forever, not slowly, overnight. Before the Apple Watch existed, the watch industry followed rules that almost never changed. Luxury brands sold heritage, traditional brands sold craftsmanship, affordable brands sold practicality. And for decades, that formula worked perfectly. Because watches weren't competing with phones, they had already survived that battle. When smartphones arrived, many people predicted watches would disappear completely. Instead, mechanical watches became luxury objects, symbols of status, art pieces for the wrist. And honestly, the industry thought it had won. Then Apple entered the room. And here's what made it dangerous. Apple didn't try to compete like a normal watch brand. They didn't talk about movements, or hand finishing, or Swiss heritage. They focused on something far more powerful: human behavior, notifications, health tracking, fitness rings, messages, sleep, suddenly. Your watch wasn't just telling time anymore. It was talking to you, learning from you, watching your body. And slowly, people became addicted to checking their wrists. This is the moment everything changed, because for the first time in modern history, a watch became more useful than a smartphone in certain situations: at the gym, while driving, during meetings, while running. You no longer needed to pull a phone out of your pocket every 5 minutes, and millions of people realized something uncomfortable. Traditional watches suddenly felt passive, beautiful, but passive. Now here's where the story becomes almost unfair, because Apple understood psychology better than the watch industry itself. Every vibration created habit. Every fitness goal created dopamine. Every ring completed felt satisfying. And before people realized what was happening, the watch became part of daily life, not fashion, not jewelry, life itself. That's why the Apple Watch exploded so quickly. It wasn't selling craftsmanship, it was selling convenience. And convenience almost always wins. But then something strange started happening. Even people who loved traditional watches started buying Apple Watches. At first, they resisted. They said things like, "I'll only wear it for workouts," or "It's just for notifications." But weeks later, the mechanical watch stayed in the box more often, and deep down, that terrified the watch industry. Because for decades, luxury brands competed against each other. Now they were competing against usefulness. And usefulness is incredibly difficult to defeat. But Apple didn't just change consumer behavior, they changed design language too. Look around today. Minimalism everywhere, clean interfaces, integrated screens, rubber straps becoming mainstream. Even traditional brands slowly adapted to modern tech-inspired aesthetics. And perhaps the craziest part, young people entering the watch world today often experience smartwatches before traditional watches. Think about that. For an entire new generation, their first watch wasn't a Casio or a Seiko. It was an Apple Watch. That changes everything. But here's the twist most people miss. Apple didn't kill traditional watches. In a weird way, it actually helped them survive. Because the Apple Watch split the market into two completely different worlds. One side wanted technology, the other wanted emotion. And suddenly, mechanical watches became even more emotional than before. Collectors started appreciating craftsmanship more deeply. The ticking movement, the sweeping second hand, the mechanical soul. Because now, those things felt rare, almost rebellious. Wearing a traditional watch became a statement, a choice, not a necessity. And honestly, that may be Apple's biggest impact of all. They forced the world to redefine what a watch actually is. Is it jewelry? Technology? Art? A health device? A status symbol? For the first time in history, a watch could be all of those things at once. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people today would struggle to go back from an Apple Watch. Not because traditional watches are worse, but because Apple changed expectations forever. People now expect watches to do more, track more, connect more, help more. And once expectations evolve, industries can never fully go backward. So, why did Apple change watches forever? Because they stopped treating watches like accessories and started treating them like extensions of human behavior. That shift changed everything. And whether you love smartwatches or hate them, the watch world after Apple will never look like it did before.